Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ardelia Rahma with my other partners, Karenia, Jannah, Dewi, Prayogo, and Vicky, Galih, Dewangga. We are here to present our literary work analysis, Yolanda by Oscar Casares, for the introduction of literature course from Overprotective. The short story that we are going to discuss is Yolanda, written by Oscar Casares. First, we are going to discuss the analysis of each main element from the short story. The first one is the plot and setting. The plot and the setting of the short story are during summer in Brownsville, Texas. A young woman named Yolanda moved into the narrator's next door, which is in a suburban village with her controlling husband Frank. Frank did not treat Yolanda well. Every night, the narrator always listens to their fight. One day, the narrator got sick. His mother asked Yolanda to look after him. From that day, the narrator fell in love with her. Suddenly, one day, Yolanda and Frank had a huge fight. She ran away from her husband and came to the narrator's house. Yolanda ended up crawling through the narrator's window. She asked him for protection. Finally, Yolanda was saved from his husband. That night, the narrator knew about Yolanda's imperfection. The next one is the stages of the plot. The story uses a linear plot, starts from the exposition, when the narrator recalls the time when he met Yolanda and Frank 20 years ago. The problem starts when Frank doesn't let Yolanda going to work, and he becomes very overprotective and controls Yolanda. His bad behavior leads to a bigger problem. Then the climax of the problem is when Yolanda and Frank had a huge fight. From the quotation, we can see that Frank found out that Yolanda had an affair. Finally, the conflict starts to blow over when Yolanda leaves his husband and asks for protection from the narrator. The second one is the characters and the characterization. We are only going to discuss the main characters and one of the minor characters in this short story, which are Yolanda, the narrator, and Frank. First, the narrator. The narrator is the main character and the protagonist in this story. He is a 36-year-old man who cannot forget his childhood memory when he was 12 years old. It is shown by the narrator in this passage. When I can't sleep at night, I think of Yolanda Castro. Second, Yolanda Castro is also the main character in this story. She is a patient and beautiful woman whom the narrator adored, and also the narrator's unforgettable love. The narrator also gives further description of her in this passage. The only girl I'd ever seen that even came close to being as beautiful as Yolanda was in a Playboy I found under my parents' bed the summer before. The girl in the magazine had the same long black hair, light brown skin, and green eyes that Yolanda did. However, as the conflicts grow, she becomes a dishonest and deceitful woman. This is expressed in the passage below. How she ended up leaving Frank for a man who worked for one of the shampoo companies. How it didn't matter because she'd also been seeing an assistant manager and would be having his baby soon enough. And how it really didn't matter because the assistant manager was already married and wasn't about to leave his wife and kids. And how actually none of it mattered because she'd been taking money out of the register and was about to be caught. But that's not the part of the story I like to remember. The last one is Frank. He is a minor character and also the antagonist in this story. He is a very controlling, rude, overprotective, jealous, and abusive husband of Yolanda. He is also an individualist man. The narrator described him as follows. It wasn't just my father. Nobody liked Frank. He had this thing about his yard where he didn't want anybody getting near it. The last one is the narrative perspective. The story uses a first-person point of view. The story is narrated by a 36-year-old man who recalled his experience when he was a young boy. It shows that the narrator sees the whole events from his past and tells the story. For the next topic, I would like to give the chance to Karenia Jannah to explain the analysis.
Thank you, Ardelia, for the opportunity. My name is Karenia Jannah Dewi Prayogo, and now I will explain about the topic discussion. According to the Yolanda short story by Oscar Casares, our group will analyze the topic of the reasons why Yolanda has an affair. We will discuss several subtopics as follow. First, rude, overprotective, and abusive husband. Second, patriarchy or inequality of women's position in society. Third, the beauty of Yolanda. And fourth, lack of freedom as a woman. First, rude, overprotective, and abusive husband. You could say that was where the problem started because Frank Castro didn't want his wife working at HEB or any other place for that matter. You have no business being in that grocery store. I heard him yell one night when I was trying to fall asleep. I could hear almost everything Frank yelled that summer. Based on the first narrative section that we provide, we can see that Frank is the one who starts the problem. He doesn't want to let Yolanda do what she wants, especially for working in HEB or the other places, wherever it is. HEB is a grocery company, and it's an American privately supermarket based in San Antonio, Texas. If Frank doesn't get things work as he wants, as we can see from the last sentence in the quotation, that he will always end the problem with arguing and yelling towards Yolanda. A week or two went by, and then my mother told my father that Frank had started showing up at the store in the middle of the day, usually during his lunch hour, but sometimes also at 2 or 3 in the afternoon. He wouldn't talk to Yolanda, but instead just hung out by the magazine rack, pretending to read wrestling magazine. From the second dialogue, we can see how overprotective Frank is. His overprotectiveness set up a mind full of bad thoughts about Yolanda. It shows that he keeps being suspicious about his wife's actions. We can say that he doesn't trust Yolanda, which is a crucial thing in a marriage where two people should trust each other and not compel their partner to always do what they want. Something shattered against the wall, and then a few seconds later, Yolanda screamed. There was another scream and then the sound of the back door slamming. I looked out my window and saw Frank Castro chase Yolanda into their backyard. And for the last quotation, those are other pieces of evidence that Frank's abusive behavior to Yolanda. We can say he is abusive because he shows violent action that affect Yolanda emotionally. He does not treat Yolanda well as long as she becomes his wife. We can see that he's a very cruel to a woman, even though Yolanda is his wife, when he definitely has to control his anger when he has a conflict with her. He will not hesitate to crash things around him to wreak his anger. This kind of behavior certainly brings up Yolanda's fear. It makes her afraid of Frank, and she certainly feels unsafe when she is around Frank. Moreover, when he starts to mad. Second, patriarchy or inequality of women's position in society. I heard Frank yell something in Spanish about how no woman in his family had ever worked behind a cosmetic counter selling lipstick. From the first piece of the narrative that we wrote on the PPT, Frank believes that a woman should not go to work. He underestimates Yolanda's job by saying there is no woman in his family had ever worked behind a cosmetic counter selling lipstick. Also, Frank represents a patriarchal husband. We can see that Frank always takes control of Yolanda. He controls everything in his relationship with her as a husband, He thinks that he is the one who decides what is right for Yolanda. On the other hand, as a good wife, Yolanda should obey his husband by staying at home, cooking, cleaning the house, and serving his husband well. That is a woman's position in society, especially if she has been married to someone. And for the next subtopics will be explained by my partner Vicky.
Okay, thank you, Karenia. My name is Vicky Galih Dewangga, and I would like to continue the presentation. The third, the beauty of Yolanda. The quotation is, if you saw what Yolanda looked like, you might not have blamed Frank for not wanting her to leave the house. It also wouldn't have been a big mystery to you how she went into the store, applying for a job in the mid department and ended up getting one in cosmetic. From the passage above, we can conclude that Yolanda is an attractive woman that can make other people flabbergasted with her beauty. Frank must be very insecure if Yolanda meets someone else, and someday she will leave him. He doesn't want to show Yolanda's beauty to other men outside. He just wants to keep it for himself, which, uh, which is a selfish action. The number four is lack of freedom as a woman. My mother told us at home that Yolanda had asked Frank to teach her how to drive when they first got married, but the Frank had said she was his princess now and any place she needed to go. Yolanda cannot do things as she desires because Frank keeps forbidding her, and it surely has a big impact on her. Frank, as his husband, doesn't let Yolanda make any decision for herself. She has to live in the jail made by his husband, which absolutely frustrates her. But she attempts to keep it by herself and give in to his husband because she didn't want to fight with Frank, which shows how much actually she really loves Frank. At the end of the day, she gets to the point where she can't stand Frank anymore. Further, she decides to leave him for another man, even though she does it in the wrong way. For the last part, we have the conclusion. From the aspects that we have analyzed, we can conclude that the short story has several moral values that we can take and apply in our real life. From the narrator's experience, we can learn that what happened in the past will give a big impact on our future. Also, from Yolanda's experience, we can see that a relationship should be equal and trust is the key. We surely cannot obtrude our partner. Nevertheless, marriage is not easy as it seems because you will spend your life with someone who you have chosen. Therefore, you have to be wise in choosing someone we want to spend our life with and take the consequences, the good ups and downs that will be faced in the future together. Now we come to the end of this presentation. That is all from us. Hopefully you can understand my presentation well. Thank you and goodbye.